Hey, Dan. It is Sunday evening, and I want to respond to that last video that you posted, the one in which you were sitting in the creek. Um, so, um, One thing you said at the end of the video, actually, that's not what I want to talk about. I actually want to talk about law enforcement and interactions with people on the roadside. But I have to start first by talking about what you said at the end of that video. I don't know if you remember it. You made the comment. You were talking about temperatures, and you made the comment that Scott O'Daniel gave you a temperature. What did you call it? A temperature measurement device? No, it was like a temperature device or anyway, something like that. Generally, those are called thermometers. I don't know if you knew this. I understand you're using this temperature device to measure the temperature in the waterway, which was currently experiencing a normal flow event. I just want to say, if you talk like that, no one's ever going to go in the river with you. Just saying. Did you see the movie Love Actually? So in that movie, Liam Neeson's wife, at the very start of the movie, so I'm not ruining anything, it actually starts off, I think, with her funeral. And of course, he's rather bummed and depressed about it. His good friend is Emma Thompson, and they're having a conversation, and he's lamenting that his wife has died, and he's just pretty much feeling sorry for himself. And she says, Daniel, if you continue like this, talking like this, no one's ever going to shag you. So what I'm saying is, if you talk like that, if you refer to it as a temperature device or whatever it is you called it, no one's ever going to shag you. And by shag you, I mean get into the river with you, because we're speaking metaphorically, of course. So anyway, but that's not what I came to talk about. I came to talk about Taryn with the flat tire. So I was actually wondering why, when they replaced the transmission, didn't they look at the tires and say, hey, we would like to sell you $400 worth of tires while we're at it? That really surprises me they didn't look at those. Or maybe you thought, oh, I can get another 1,000 miles out of these things. Anyway, but you said something in there about the state patrol stopping, and he checked Taryn's ID and then went on his way. And then you said, which seems odd, but you didn't actually continue to explain why it seemed odd. I assume you think it seems odd because the state patrol guy checked Taryn's ID to begin with. And that's what I want to talk about, because unfortunately, it is not odd. It is very, very common. Now, had it been Sarah, would he have checked her ID? Would he have checked your ID? Or is he checking an ID of obviously a teenager who, probably has something going on? So here's the real question, and I don't know if you've thought about this or talked to Taryn about this, is Taryn in this situation required to present his or show his ID? Because we're not talking ID, we're actually talking driver's license, right? So in this situation, is Taryn required to give the officer his ID/driver's license? I cannot think of any justification of why Taryn would be required to show it. And this goes to the heart of, I think, standard law enforcement practice these days. And that is, anytime you can get an ID, anytime you're in a situation, you're always going to ID somebody, and you're going to run it, and you're going to make sure they don't have warrants. So the question for me is that invasive? And the answer is yes, it is invasive. And it's such a small thing that I'm sure Taryn didn't even think about the fact that, does this officer have the right to even ask me for this? And why? What am I doing? I'm sitting on the roadside in distress, and you want to check and see if I have a warrant. Once you know I don't, then you say, well, best of luck. Hope your dad gets here soon, and off you go. So, and I think it goes to the heart of why law enforcement has issues today, and that is they don't even, most officers wouldn't even think twice about IDing somebody in a situation like that. It's just what they do. It's just what they do. They don't even think about the fact that what am I going to do if I say, can I see your ID? Or really, they probably don't even say it. They would say, oh, do you have your ID with you? And the person said, well, I'm not going to show you my ID. Why should I? The officer's immediately going to be on the defensive, and they're going to put the hard sell on them. Now, in that situation, if Taryn were to say, no, I'm not showing you my ID, and the officers will, give me your ID or else I'm going to blah, blah, blah. Fine, knock yourself out, handcuff me, take me to, to put me in your car. I've done nothing. I've not done any sort of traffic infraction, committed any sort of traffic infraction. I'm just simply on the side of the road in distress. And you want to make sure I don't have a warrant. That's really what you're doing by checking ID. Where's the reasonable suspicion? Where's any reason for wanting to ID this person? So again, I think that the easy violation of privacy that law enforcement engages in generally creates a sense of not violation in someone like Taryn in this situation, but at least a sense of, I am on the other side from this person, and I am now worried because I could be doing something wrong. The officer could have easily come up and said, hey, what's going on? Oh, well, I have something wrong with my tire. My dad's on the way. And it's like, oh, okay, well, my name is, State Trooper Bumble, whatever. What's yours? And it's like, would you like me to wait here until your dad gets here? How long do you think it'll be? And, what do you think happened to the cars? Anything maybe I can help you with? It would be such a different interaction that Taryn would come away with that thinking, oh, okay, I actually have some sympathy for what this guy's doing for a living. But instead, it's this sense that this is the authority that's up here, and I don't know what my words are failing me right now. But I found it, when I listened to that, I immediately was frustrated because, especially when I was in law enforcement, I really thought long and hard before I ID'd somebody casually, simply because it is an act of seizure, if only temporary and if only psychological. And again, he doesn't have to show it, but no kid Taryn's age and Taryn's situation is ever going to say, mind your own business, Mr. Cop. You don't need to see my ID because it's a casual violation of my rights. And no, I'm not going to show it to you. So, even if you ask nicely. So anyway, and I know none of my kids, as much as I've talked to them, are ever going to do that. Nobody. But, if Taryn were Latino, it would have been a different situation. If Taryn were black, it would have been a different situation. If Taryn looked like a D-bag, it would have been a different situation. It would have been, let me see your ID. And do you have anything in the car that's illegal? It would have gone to that. Well, you need to mind if I look? And, and it's those sorts of casual violations. Now, again, every cop would say, well, that's good police work. Of course, that's what they're going to do. But it's not good police work. It's creating a sense of distrust in the community with law enforcement. That's what that does. So anyway, I'd be interested to hear how Taryn felt about that, if he even thought about it consciously about that request for his ID. If he if he remembers the wording that was used. All of that, I think, is important and goes to the heart of the use and misuse of power. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Continue to fight for the oppressed. That's what I'm going to do. And I will talk to you soon.